Alone Together, a DS9 companion. Episode 2, Sources. Jake Sisko is 44 years old. He is now the editor-in-chief for the Federation News Service and living in the apartment above Sisko's restaurant with his wife and their 2 daughters. Jake is clearly matured and carries the weight of the world on his shoulders most days. Nathan took over the restaurant from Joseph when he finally realized he could no longer keep up with the day-to-day operations. Nathan continues to use Joseph's time-honored recipes, but he still forgets to stir the gumbo often enough. Jake first moved in with his grandfather when he decided to pursue his reporting career on Earth. The great thing about Jake's father, Benjamin Sisko, being a Bajoran prophet is that he can always reach out to Jake, Cassidy, or their son. Today, Jake's not-so-baby brother, Lieutenant Junior Grade Joseph Yates Sisko, is an engineer on Deep Space Nine. Dr. Julian Bashir has taken on a rather paternal role with the Sisko children, as has Professor Miles O'Brien at Starfleet Academy. Miles has even been known to show up with a bottle of the good stuff from time to time. Quark even keeps in touch with Jake, usually to trade information as much as checking up on Jake. Having dated a Dabo girl, Jake became a rather proficient Dabo player. Quark gives him information, and in exchange, Jake doesn't play so much Dabo when he visits the station.
In our last episode, Garrett called Dr. Bashir to Cardassia Prime under a mysterious pretense. Unable to transport to the surface or access medical records from the Planetary Health Authority, Dr. Bashir is at an impasse, starting to treat or cure the unknown illness affecting Cardassia.
Mission log, stardate 73712.6. Castellan Garak has brought me up to speed on the medical situation on Cardassia. A genetically engineered virus has begun sweeping through the populace, seemingly infecting at random. The source remains a mystery. My analysis is quite preliminary at this point.
Julian, is that you? I can't seem to make visual contact. Please respond.
Jake, I'm reading your transmission. Stand by. I'm trying to clean up the signal. Computer, apply a recursive algorithm to the bandwidth filter.
Working.
Jake, I'm not receiving this transmission under ideal circumstances. Wait a minute. There we go. Is that better?
Julian, hi. I tried to contact you on the station.
Yes, I was called away on a priority mission. What can I do for you?
Well, Dr. Jabara told me. It's a medical emergency, right? Is everything okay?
Yes, I've only just arrived, so there's a lot of work to be done. It's good to hear from you, Jake, but I've a lot to do, and I'm a team of one. What can I do for you?
Yeah, well, when Dr. Jabara told me, I tried to call Kira, but she was in consultation with the Vedic Assembly.
Yes, the life of a Kai is a busy one, but I wasn't called to Bajor.
Yeah, any chances that this has something to do with what's happening on Cardassia?
Where I am is classified. However, it's simply a humanitarian mission. But what do you mean? What have you heard is happening on Cardassia?
I have my sources.
Jake?
I just have a few questions, Julian. You know me, I won't take too much of your time.
The last time you had a few questions, I spent the next 4 hours consulting on your latest novel.
Yeah, well, today I'm contacting you in official capacity for the Federation News Service. And I'll make you a deal. You tell me what you know, and I'll tell you whatever it is that you think I know.
Look, Mr. Editor-in-Chief, you contacted me.
Oh, well, you know, you can't blame a reporter for trying.
A doctor is normally the most newsworthy source. The last time I was important to a story was when you were writing a profile on me, right before...
Yeah, before we responded to that medical emergency on Agilon Prime, right? I think, to be honest, that was kind of the version that I was looking for an interesting angle.
Interesting angle? I just proposed one of the most controversial theories of my career, and you didn't think it was interesting enough? Well, no wonder you wrote about yourself. I could have explained the theory more clearly if you had just...
Well, you know, honestly, you know, this really wasn't about Agilon Prime, and that wasn't why I changed the story, the focus of the story, Julian. But enough about Agilon Prime. I want to talk about Cardassia. According to my sources, it is on lockdown. I mean, nobody's able to get permission to enter the place or leave the place from what I heard. And, you know, Court told me that Grand Negus Ram said that business is horrible and he's completely frustrated. But no one can give me a clear and solid explanation. So I was hoping that maybe, you know, given your close relationship with Garrick, that maybe you could clear things up for me.
Well, frankly, I'm surprised you were able to get that much information.
Interesting.
What is?
Well, I mean, a second ago when I was bringing up the topic, you know, you seem a little bit evasive. But now that you know that I know a little bit, you seem that you have more that you want to tell me.
Not at all, Jake. I have absolutely nothing further to tell you. Other than...
Well, you're talking to the editor-in-chief of the Federation News Service, Julian. I know that when people are trying to keep a secret from me. So, I mean, hell, you don't know what I know.
You'd be surprised, and watch your language.
I'm sorry. I just called because I know that there's issues on Cardassia, and you know, with you being coincidentally called to a medical emergency, and Garrick being the castellan of Cardassia, it didn't take too much for me to kind of do some dot connecting.
Look, Jake, I really can't talk about it. Suffice to say, I've been called to a priority mission, and understandably, I cannot comment on a mission that has only just begun.
Julian, I'm not just looking for a story. I want to help. At least I think I can help. But I do have an obligation to the truth, and I will honor that.
Now, that is interesting.
What?
You just reminded me of your father for a moment. Had you said, looking for a damn story, I might have sworn we were back in his old office. More importantly, do you think you can help?
I heard mumblings about an attempt on Garrick's life a few weeks ago. I contacted him at his home.
He took your call?
Well, you know, Garrick checks in from time to time, but in this case, subspace communications were a little shaky, so he took a call from Bajor's newly appointed ambassador.
But you don't even live on Bajor.
Well, wait a minute. I'm the firstborn of the emissary. So, you know, all Cisco's are Bajoran citizens. One word from the Kai, and I kind of landed the job.
Well, Garrick must have been surprised to see you on the other end of a diplomatic communique.
Yeah, well, not that he let it on, but he did compliment me on my resolution. I think his exact words were, truly the maneuver of the Cisco. Yeah, I told him a source said he might be in danger, and he was alerted to this rumor of a coup.
What did he say?
Well, he didn't really say much. You know how he does. He listened. He avoided my questions. He asked about my family. He complimented my last novel. He redirected every subject change, and then he got me talking about my dad. So I learned more from a rumor than I ever would have from Garrick. I'll give him this, though. He's good.
You don't know how good. Frankly, I don't even think I know how good he really is.
Maybe not, but that's where it ended. My trail was cold until about 14 hours ago when I heard that you had left. Anyway, my sources in Cardassia tell me that...
You have sources on Cardassia?
Yeah, I have sources throughout the quadrants, Julian. You know that. Anyway, multiple sources on Cardassia said that Garrick was hosting a diplomatic conference. He was still trying to smooth things over with the Breen, and their trade agreement was developing some cracks, shall we say, along their distribution routes.
Cracks?
Yeah, apparently some Ferengi merchants had sold a couple of Cardassian cargo haulers, some second-rate transporter modules, led to some major consignment issues and losses for both sides. They were crying foul. I mean, it took some time to figure out Who was at fault?
Jake, this is fascinating, but what does it have to do with Garak?
I thought doctors were supposed to have patience.
Actually, doctors make the worst patients.
No, I meant
I
that
know, I was making a little joke.
All right, well, I was, where was I?
Lost cargo.
Right. So the Breen, they weren't going to get the payments because the cargo never completed the rematerialization routine. And basically, once they started the transporter sequence, something happened. They ended up with a bunch of organic and inorganic goo all over the place. Cardassians accused the Breen transport captain of deception and vice versa.
Neither race are particularly trusting of others.
Yeah, well, that's right. The Cardassians wouldn't allow the Breen to complete their own analysis, and the Breen denied any wrongdoing. So the whole thing is about to become a galactic incident if Grand Nagus Rom hadn't been in the middle of an audit.
An audit? Jake, where are you going with this? I really don't have time.
Yeah, I'm getting there, Julian. Just bear with me. So, being the man that he is, Grand Nagus Rom was completing his annual audit of Ferengi trade practices and discovered the transporter modules were known to be faulty. They came from decaying NX-class prototypes that had been found in an abandoned shipyard. The Ferengi, they came across the stuff and they started scavenging. They tweaked the old module, transporter biomatter. I'm sure you're aware that NX-class ships weren't known for flawless transporters. And those were prototypes.
So you think the Breen tried to assassinate Garak as retribution?
Yeah, well, that's one of three theories that I've kind of come by to explain Cardassia's apparent shutdown. But after this trade embargo, suddenly, I don't know, apparently usage of all medical equipment is subject to state approval?
It doesn't make sense. The Breen aren't known for biogenic weapons. They use brute force with rather advanced weapons technology, but I've never heard of any weaponized viruses.
A virus?
Hey, look, I really have to get back to work. If there's nothing else you can tell me of any use.
No. Well, just let me, bear with me. There's two other somewhat credible theories that I have that implicate the Andorians and the Romulans.
Romulans.
And Andorians.
The Andorians have nothing to gain from Garak's death.
That's true, but their beef is also with the Breen. Andoria's population and its fleet were completely decimated, and they're still recovering from the Breen assaults during the Dominion War. So, icy moons are not exactly lending themselves to quick procreation.
Well, their colonies are also further apart due to the need for lower temperatures that still fall within the M-class conditions. Plus, Andoria is militaristic. They have great warships, but they don't devote resources to espionage or underhand methods. Look, Jake, the last time you broke a story about Andoria, you found yourself in front of the Federation Council being threatened with extradition. Yeah,
and my evidence convinced them to recall the ambassador before the charges were dropped. Anyways, the Andorians and the Breens may have issues, and the Breens and the Cardassians are resolving this trade dispute.
But the Romulans are the only species you've mentioned who have been known to use biogenic weapons.
Would they have a reason to want Garak dead?
Well, let's just say that Garak and the Romulans have past dealings.
You mean his past with the embassy?
What are you talking about?
Come on, Julian. We all know that he was a member of the Obsidian Order. I mean, he worked as a groundskeeper on the Romulus for the Cardassian embassy. He never told you? Garak was no more a gardener than he was a tailor.
Actually, Garak is quite a good tailor.
You know what I mean. He may be a politician now, but as a spy, he played many roles. I'm surprised he's satisfied with, such a quiet life.
World leaders hardly live quiet lives.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I do. Jake, listen, I appreciate your insights. At least I have a starting point. If you hear anything else, please let me know.
Yeah, now that I know where to keep digging, I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Give the girls a hug for me.
Julian, one more thing. Sorry, I'm glad you're still there. Before you go, I want to say I thought about it a little, and I think I'm old enough to say hell now.
You'll never be old enough to swear. You're still 13. I've got work. Though I may have some work for you later. I'll be in touch.
Work? A job? No, I didn't think I was any really much use at Agilon Prime. I don't think you would have any use for me. I couldn't do any much more than that.
We'll see. Take care.
Excuse me, are you quite finished, Doctor?
Garak, have you been monitoring us this whole time?
Doctor, all communications in and out of Cardassia are currently under my direct control.
Well, we may have a lead.
Yes, the Romulans.
You already suspected them.
Oh, I'm suspicious of everyone. But Jake, you did confirm that specific concern of mine.
I'm glad I could help.
Indeed. I suspected that the Romulans could be involved. I've placed agents on several planets for reconnaissance. Only 3 of the 8 are still alive. I never send a boy to do a man's work.
Only 3 left?
Now, Mr. Jake, remember, all of this is off the record.
Yeah, as long as you're in danger, I'll respect that.
Even after my life is no longer in immediate danger, we may not be able to discuss this particular situation publicly. I'll let you know.
Understood.
Garak, how were you able to monitor my communication with Jake? I was barely able to receive his signal at first.
Yeah, I know. I had to run his signal through the same encryption protocols we're using. It took a moment to reconfigure our local systems to allow us to communicate outside of it. Although your recursive algorithm was a good idea, it never would have worked. The bandwidth filter has nothing to do with my encryption protocols.
5 out of 8 are dead?
Yes, the acceptable loss is 20%, but this is a bit more, isn't it? It's a serious issue, and it requires risk.
Garak, Jake and I figured out in a few minutes of conversation, you really have to learn to trust.
And who would you have me trust, Doctor? An intelligence operative for an alien government and a reporter who shares his secrets as part of his job? I mean, hardly people one should consider trustworthy.
But you have to trust me, Garak.
Yes, Doctor, for better or worse, I trust you. But Captain Sisko once told me that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We all have a weakness. And if it's the right interrogator who discovers it, the information revealed could devastate sectors of space and destabilize entire worlds.
I never realized you and the captain discussed philosophy.
Well,
Yeah, I never realized you discussed anything with my dad.
well, the captain and I saw each other from time to time. It's a small station, after all. However, the good intentions paving the road to hell in this case are the secrets, knowledge. People see secrets as being malicious little things, but they keep the peace. Secrets are both power and penalty. If everyone was honest, there'd be no need for secrets. If no one shared secrets, the galaxy would be a much happier place. But Doctor, you know the things I know, and in some cases, the things we both know are the things we need to ensure that no one knows. Anarchy would reign, and the order of the day would be chaos. Trust, especially for people who hold this information, is both a luxury and a burden of truth.
I hate to admit it, but you're right.
Listen, guys, if you ever need to share some of that truth.
Oh, it isn't, Jake, that I wouldn't trust you with Mila's recipes or even some wildly outdated intelligence data. But I know you have a hunger for information. And you also feel a great responsibility to let your people know of any threats. And thus, this virus is a threat, not only to Cardassians, but quite possibly to off-worlders as well.
Fair point, but Garrick...
Doctor, haven't we wasted enough time?
You're right. Jake, if you're willing to keep digging, you can focus your investigations on Romulus now. I'll do some looking myself.
I'm on it.
Garrick, you said that you have holographic systems, an EMH. How sophisticated are your emitters? Could you create some scanning equipment at your location that would be tied into your equipment? By now, I suspect you have a closed system like the one you've locked your medical professionals up in. Does it have medical databases?
I suppose I do, and I suppose it does, but what are you getting at?
Well, you were willing to transmit images. If I can't do the analysis myself, if you had access to the equipment, well, I can at least analyze the results.
You know, Julian, that really hadn't occurred to me.
Oh, yes. Well, you wanted the best.
That enhanced brain of yours rarely ceases to amaze me.
Let's get started. We'll likely need a standard biobed with a neuronal scanning interface. I need to map your cerebrum to see if we should start or expect any issues with reasoning. A portable retinal scanner, too, will help identify any changes in blood pressure or possible sensory complications. The biobed will also monitor your cardiopulmonary system, which should give me a look at your heart. We may be able to slow the progression until we have help.
Well, it's a good thing I had a pad nearby, Julian. That's quite a list. With no EMH to conduct the scans, it will take a few minutes.
Well, contact me when you're finished. I want to see if Jake has learned anything.
Very well, Doctor. I'll contact you shortly.
Jake? Jake?
Julian. Yeah, Garrick had more than a few enemies on Romulus. There was a proconsul Maroc who opposed opening diplomatic relations with Cardassia at all. He was poisoned. Subcommander named Ustad, who was the chief of staff for the Romulan ambassador. Ustad died in a transporter accident beaming to the Romulan Senate. And the ambassador, well, we all know about the ambassador.
We do indeed. But they're all dead. Are you suggesting this is a vendetta from someone related to one of those people?
Well, anything is possible. I'm more suggesting behavior.
I suppose. But Garrick was assigned there. It's not like he goes around killing Romulans.
No, but it sounds more to me like he may have been ordered to kill Romulans. Did you ever meet a Senator Varrock or Vrenak on the station?
Should I have?
Well, not really, but, you know, Quark would sometimes sell me little tidbits of information. You know, let's just say I'd take the occasion break from the double wheel and he would tell me things. And one of the things he told me about was Senator Vrenak. Apparently visited the station before the Romulans joined the Dominion War. Now, Senator Vrenak, maybe he was working with my dad to have some kind of negotiation into the entry into the war. I don't know. I'm not sure. But, you know, shortly after he would have left the station, he was lost in a shuttle explosion.
Vrenak also negotiated the non-aggression pact with the Dominion. It's quite the change of alliance.
And he's dead.
I suppose it's possible that the Romulan government, or the Tal Shiar for that matter, could be playing a rather long game.
Garrick is the leader of the world, of his world. You know, Cardassia is in a much better place now. And they may even someday join the Federation. Who knows? We have a level of isolation to get over, but...
Koval.
I'm sorry, what?
Jake, I have to go. Keep digging. If you hear anything else, let me know.
I'll be in touch.
Thank you. And Garrick, if you're listening, which I expect you are, medication, rest. I'll contact you shortly.